What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Big Six Podcast, CBS Sports NFL Podcast. I'm Brinson. I'm your host. Got a post-Christmas pick'em special. Joining me, Katie Mox under the weather. We're holding the fort down. We're all wearing black T-shirts, or I've got a collar on mine. Not that it makes it fancier. Shout out Wolfpack. I'm a little under the weather as well, fighting through. We'll call it my flu game. Joining me to do it, RJ White, Alex Selelnick, aka Propstarz. What's up, fellas? How we doing? Hope you had a Merry Christmas and happy.
Doing good. We're all wearing black to celebrate the end of the year, and once we get to January 1st, it's the time of rebirth, and so we're just paying our respects to the end of 2023 here.
Yep, and I'm fired up. I'm doing well as well. Happy holidays, Brinson. Happy holidays, RJ.
Shout 2023 can get
2023 in the rearview mirror. What's up, Katie? Hope you're doing well. Feeling a little under the weather, and yeah, I'm excited. We've reached week 17. Lots of interesting storylines. We've got teams making their final pushes for the playoffs. It's a fantasy championships in a lot of leagues, so yeah, no shortage of really interesting things to chat about.
Absolutely. Anything stand out to you guys in terms of the holiday slate? I got to tell you, I'm not a big fan of Christmas on a Monday. I don't think that resulted in that just you have the Monday Christmas night and the 3 games, and now where it's Thursday for us, and it's weird for like the jobs that we do, right? I mean, it's not like a normal job, but like Monday, if you're like Wednesday Christmas or like Wednesday Christmas Eve, you feel like everybody's on board with nothing going on that week, right? And then you roll through the weekend, you get your football. It was just it was very odd to have 3 games, Monday night, Christmas night, and poof. And you know, the sort of the disappointment of 49ers and Ravens in terms of how competitive it was. I don't know. It felt like it was very abrupt and sudden and sort of a letdown in terms of the holiday football slate and having like, I don't know, post-holiday anxiety or whatever the hell it would be called.
I would agree. Yeah. I felt like we had a weird cadence. Week 16 had just a weird cadence to it, and the schedule did feel off. Yeah, for sure. But yeah, I think week 17 looks a little bit better. I'm still not sure how I feel about Saturday football, but hopefully we get some good matchups. And yeah.
RJ, any thoughts on that? You don't care.
Yeah,
you're a spread killing robot. You don't care.
Yeah, it was interesting because you get the Thursday game, and then you have the 2 Saturday games, so it kind of starts to feel like that's the extended part of the weekend. Then you have all the games on Sunday, so you feel like it's petering out. The 2 early matchups were supposed to be blowouts. One turned into an ugly loss for the Chiefs, as we know. But then, you know, it kind of felt like by the time you get to the marquee game of Monday night, everybody's kind of like footballed out, trying to deal with holidays and relatives and gifts and all that. And it's like, you know, maybe if we compact the schedule a little bit and didn't draw the football out so much, it would have been easier to keep up with, but so many standalone games to follow.
Yeah, that's the thing is it's just very, I don't know. I sort of wanted like I almost would have preferred a Tuesday NFL game. Like just toss out a single. I know we don't want that, but I just wanted like the single game on Tuesday. I like I don't know. Anyway, maybe I'm just an old curmudgeon who likes to be set in his ways. Who is to say? Regardless, let's get into the games. Before, by the way, if you like winning picks, make sure and sign up for sportsline.com. Use promo code PICK. Get your first month for $1. This episode of Pick Six is presented by FanDuel Sportsbook. Make every moment more. And you got me, Brady, and Dews talking about Russell Wilson getting benched, which is crazy. Broncos going to choke down $85 million in dead cap or $95 million in dead cap space next year, apparently. Eventual breakup with the Broncos. Might be writing about that later. Let's recap what happened in week 16. Nothing super special. Alex, the only one above 500 with a 3-2 record to get to exactly 500. If you could bet on me going 3-3, you should do that because I've done it every week for the last 6 weeks. Ever since I switched to giving out 6 picks, it's hilarious. I will say that I'm annoyed by the Jets not covering. That's ridiculous. And the Packers probably should have covered too. I mean, that's a lot of road chalk that I was eating, but whatever. Katie goes 2-4. is now 1 game under 500. RJ is 51-51-3 after going 3-3. The year the backup quarterback really showing out at 500 records for everybody in terms of our best bets. I hope let's all take the next 2 weeks and get above 500. Maybe get way above 500. Get hot to close out the season. Obviously, lines and odds are subject to change. We record this at 2 p.m. on Thursday, so make sure and check with your book before tailing, especially this week and especially next week when you've got Week 18 lines that are going to move all over the place. Of course, we've got a couple games here where we've seen massive line movements, and we will get to those, notably with the Bills and Washington. But let's start with an incredible NFC battle between the Cowboys and the Lions in Dallas. This one is, I don't know, man, RJ, this seems like a pretty good spot to sort of take the narrative from last week and flip it on its head and lay what's become a shorter number. It was Cowboys -6 down to 4.5, which is a little spooky if you're taking the Cowboys, which I am doing as a best bet. Dallas on the road against Miami struggles offensively to really close, finish drives. You have Tony Pollard pulled down to the 1-inch line. Awesome if you're starting Pollard and Dak and against the Dolphins defense in your fantasy championship. Sweet. Congrats, Leaguer. Detroit wins their division title first time since 93 on the road against a division rival, and now has to go play the team that's been the best home team in football this season. Dallas undefeated at home. RJ, I got the Cowboys as the best bet here. How about you?
I have the Cowboys as a best bet as well. We're getting 4.5 at FanDuel. It's still 5.5 across most of the market. I was hoping it would come down when it was at 6 because I wanted to play the Cowboys, but felt like the market should be backing the Lions here and bring it down a little bit for us. So I'm glad that we're getting it at 4.5 for the podcast here and put it in as a best bet. It was a disappointing result for Dallas against Miami, but I thought Dak Prescott still looked good. I thought the defense held strong in the red zone in that game. That goal line fumble early proved costly for the Cowboys, ended up costing them the game. I don't think that they played particularly poorly, though. I think it was a little bit of getting rid of the narrative of they can only beat bad teams. I thought they could have beat Miami there. The Detroit defense was bailed out repeatedly last week by bad Nick Mullins throws. They still gave up an awful 9.3 yards per attempt. And now against a better quarterback here that is going to make those same mistakes. I think it could be a tough week for them because they can't really stop the pass because Dak's not going to make those mistakes. So I expect a lot of points on the Dallas side here. I don't know if the Detroit offense keeps up. It's going to be a little bit of a letdown spot after they finally win the division. A lot of partying last week coming off of that game. So we'll see if they show up here. But even if they do, tough matchup on the road against the Cowboys team that plays very well at home. My power ratings would have made it around 6. Did make it around 6. But now that we've dropped off a little bit, I think Dallas is in the spot here. They're a little more desperate team with the Lions coming off that win. So love playing Dallas here at 4.5. If you do have 5.5, it's still a lean to the Cowboys. Like I said, I would make the line 6.
Worth noting too, Alex, that on the injury report, Rico Dowdle, and this may be interesting for Tony Pollard props, but Dowdle was limited Tuesday, did not practice Wednesday. We also got Zach Martin limited Tuesday, did not practice Wednesday, which is just a weird shift. Usually you would see him ramp up if they were limited. Maybe it was sort of a day off trying to get him healthy. Tyron Smith did not practice either day. Again, we record this on Thursday, so keep an eye on those because that's the two Cowboys. Well, I don't know if they're two best offensive linemen. Tyler Smith is really good too, but 2 of the 3 best offensive linemen for the Cowboys. And then for Detroit, Frank Ragnow full practice, Penei Sewell full practice, and Taylor Decker limited practice Tuesday, did not practice Wednesday. Just again, that offensive line for Jared Goff, I think with Micah Parsons and Dexter Lawrence there, that's pretty key as well. So keep it. I think this is definitely one. I love the Cowboys still, but if you see this line moving, don't think it's some sharp hammering one side. It may just be these offensive line injuries, which matter a ton.
Absolutely, Brinson. Yeah, that would make a significant steep downgrade for the run game, and even I think it would trickle down to the amount of time that Dak would have to throw if any of those guys, much less multiple offensive linemen, especially if we're talking about Tyron Smith and Zach Martin, are missing this game. Did want to point out this is a just absolutely fantastic potential blow-up spot for CeeDee Lamb Also, for the first time in his career, his prop is at triple digits. It is 100.5 yards. Makes sense when we break down this matchup. Detroit, one of the worst pass defenses in the league. Their pass rush has been middle of the pack, so Dak should have plenty of time. Granted, the offensive line is fairly healthy. CeeDee Lamb, we've talked about it on this specific show all season long, is playing at an exceptionally high level, has really entered that top-tier pantheon of elite wide receivers. He's been just unguardable. And the Lions, I believe, double team at the lowest rate in the NFL. So if that is the case, playing at home, obviously optimal conditions against a Detroit pass defense that's just been shredded by opposing number one wide receivers, CeeDee Lamb could go absolutely ballistic. You'd obviously have to pay a hefty price if we're betting the prop market, though, considering, as we mentioned, it's 105 yards.
That is a substantial number.
I will point out those injury reports that I think Tuesday was probably a walkthrough for both teams with a shorter week. So they can put kind of whatever they want there. They can estimate. And really what happened Wednesday is key. And this is Thursday. We haven't got the final reports yet, but obviously what the designations say on Thursday is going to be a big indicator of where you should go in this matchup.
Yeah, and that's a great point because there's no even injuries listed for the Cowboys yet. They are listed for the Lions. It looks better for the Lions right now. Still like the Cowboys. Thought that the offensive line did a pretty good job against a stout Miami defense relative to all the injuries that they were dealing with. Speaking of the Dolphins, the winners of the Fraud Bowl, bing, get your bingo. Head to Detroit. Head to Baltimore. Head to Charm City, where they face the Baltimore Ravens. Baltimore coming off a Christmas night beatdown of the San Francisco 49ers. Miami squeaks out a win against the Cowboys with a very impressive final drive there by the Miami offense. Total here of 46.5. The Ravens favored by 3.5. I guess the question is, RJ, did the Dolphins do enough for you to say they can beat a good team and go on the road and beat the Ravens, who are pretty healthy and playing some really good football? My gut says no. I was tempted to make this Baltimore a best bet at 3.5, but they've just been so good against quality teams at home. It's just a lot of points for a Miami team that is fighting, I think still alive for the 1 seed.
Yeah, it's tough for the Dolphins. Really banged up team right now. A lot of people on the Wednesday injury report. I would make it 3 if I knew everyone was healthy. So a little bit of value on the Dolphins there. But with the injuries, really, we'll see who's available on Baltimore side. I know Kyle Hamilton also dealing with an injury. Zay Flowers there too, missed practice. So they have a couple key injuries too, but it seems a lot worse on Miami side. Miami gutted out a win versus a good team, killed that narrative they can't beat good teams. Must-win game for them for the division race and to stay alive in the number 1 seed here. I'm trying not to overrate Baltimore too much with that win at San Francisco, since it's just 1 week and you don't want to put too much into 1 week. Where the defense was helped a little bit by some deflected interceptions, and it's not to say they didn't deserve, to win the game handily there, but a couple of those bounce up in the air, and a lot of teams they fall down to the ground, and they were just falling right to the right guys there. Baltimore is vulnerable against the run, so we'll see if Miami's able to exploit that. But their running backs are banged up. Their offensive line is beat up. It wasn't that effective in the run game against Dallas, which we thought it would be with Jonathan Hankins out. So we'll see there. Miami quietly has a highly rated defense, and some of that is scheduled too. But that you could say that about the Ravens for a lot of the season, that their highly rated defense was based on who they were playing, the offense they were playing. And Miami really did a respectable job against an MVP candidate in Dak to be able to win that game. Just did enough to win the game there. So expected there to be some Baltimore backers. Not surprised it'll reopen at 4. Came down a little bit. Now it's 3.5 in the market, because I think people do believe Miami can keep this a close game. So big game for both teams in what they can do next week. If Baltimore wins this, they can just rest guys next week. They don't have to worry about getting anybody hurt in week 18. So big game either side. My lean would be to take the points here at 3.5, but I think 3 is the right number, so I'm in no rush to play it.
Steelers in week 18 for the Ravens. Did you get any Lamar for MVP, Alex?
I did, Brinson. Yeah, actually. Nice. But prior to this game, I've been kind of adding to my position pretty much, I think, since week 9, week 10. I know we've discussed it here at length. Yep. Lamar just has been fantastic, really put a stamp on it against the 49ers, obviously playing prime time versus, potentially for the number 1 seed. really just put an exclamation on things. I think we'll see the same against Miami. I think Miami has the ability to push Baltimore a little bit too. And we'll just see Lamar continue to be efficient, spread the ball around. Doing so without Mark Andrews continues to be very impressive, especially looking at the running back depth chart as well. So this is just like another spot for Lamar to continue to rely on his legs and spread the ball around. And I like Baltimore in this spot.
Do we think, RJ, that Tua is still alive for the MVP?
Absolutely. I mean, if they win this game, I think he might be in the lead for MVP. I mean, it's really just it's kind of weird. We've had MVP playoffs the last few weeks.
I know, exactly.
We had a little semifinal matchup between Lamar Jackson and Brock Purdy. We had a semifinal matchup between Tua and Dak Prescott. The two winners advanced to this week to play each other in Tua and Lamar. And if Tua wins and Miami wins, then they're going to be playing the Bills and trying to. I think they might have the division at that point. The Bills need them to lose, but still, if Josh Allen has a big game in that sense, maybe he takes it away from Tua in the end. I don't know. So it's weird that all these quarterbacks are playing each other that are in the mix for the. It just that the schedule worked out that way. They're in the mix for the MVP. Yeah,
it's crazy. 76% chance to win the division for the Dolphins. If they beat the Ravens, they lock up the division. Oh no, excuse me. Yeah. No, I was looking at make the playoffs. I was like, I'm pretty sure they're going to make the playoffs no matter what. If they beat the Ravens, they win the division. If not, they can still win, even if the Bills beat them. I don't think that's right. Anyway, you get the point. If they beat the Ravens, they lock up the division, and Tua would be in the MVP race. I think it's just interesting because Josh Allen is still right there for MVP, but the problem is if Lamar beats the Dolphins, Lamar probably cements it. And if the Dolphins beat the Ravens, then Josh Allen can't win the division when he plays the Dolphins, so it might not matter. So there's RIP to those Josh Allen tickets potentially. Speaking of the Bills, they are hosting the Patriots as a robust 13.5 point favorite. I put that in at 13. I put it in at 13 on Sportsline. That's right. All my picks are on Sportsline. Now the holidays are over. Back to being focused, RJ. I've got the Bills here as a best bet. I think it was 13 at 1 o'clock, so I'm going to take 13. If you look at last week, they go to the Chargers on a short week, playing on Saturday against a team that just fired its coach, so you got the dead cat bounce factor there, against a defense that was re-energized and was motivated after basically not winning their Super Bowl, but beating the Chiefs, coming off this huge win, and then going on the road for the second week in a row, all the way across the country, and in that letdown spot on a short week against a team that shouldn't have been hyped up, but was because they were on a 10-day mini bye after firing their coach. So really bad spot in hindsight for the Bills against the Chargers. Should have been more obvious. I think this is a really good spot for the Bills against the Patriots. It's a Patriots team that's just not very good. They are struggling on offense. I know that they've beat Denver, but that doesn't impress me that much. Buffalo and Sean McDermott in particular, they lost earlier this year, so there's a little bit of a revenge factor. I think they know this is probably Bill Belichick's last game against the Bills in New England. Would love to send him out with an L. They've had a habit and a proclivity of beating down really like divisional opponents late in the season when they are getting going, and the Bills are getting going right now. Alex, Stephon Diggs had a very quiet game against the Chargers. Do you think he can get going here?
I do think he can get going here, Brinson. And it's been a really quiet second half of the season for Stephon Diggs. He's averaging just around 50 receiving yards per game. Since Brady has taken over as the offensive play caller over Ken Dorsey, he hasn't eclipsed 75 receiving yards in a game. So I really think this is going to be a squeaky wheel, gets the grease sort of spot for Stephon Diggs against the Patriots. The Patriots defense, albeit above average, is a significant pass funnel, mostly as a result because their run defense is elite. First in EPA allowed per rush. We've seen the Bills pivot to being a much more conservative offense under Joe Brady, a lot of more James Cook. But I do think this is a spot. I think Diggs is upset, and I think Josh Allen's going to appease his number one receiver, and we just see a lot of volume, which is why I'm choosing to go with receptions versus yards here. I do think we're going to see Josh Allen pepper him with double-digit targets in this game, so I'd like him to go over 5.5 receptions.
RJ, any thoughts on your Bills?
Yeah, they suffered a scare against the Chargers. They did dominate that game in stats, 6.2 to 4.2 yards per play. They just need to stop with the dumb turnovers. And my worry here is that the Patriots are a team that can create those dumb turnovers and take advantage of them. So it's just you need to play better. You need to play better than you did earlier in the year when they were played by Mac Jones of all people. So they know they can lose to the Patriots at any time. They can't sleepwalk here like they did last week. New England's run offense, I thought they would be a great matchup last week. I thought they'd have a good game, did nothing really. But Bailey Zappi stepped up and helped them outgain Denver by more than by a yard per play. Don't think that's going to happen here. The offense was inconsistent for New England. 8 of their 13 drives didn't even net 10 yards. So it was really like a boom or bust type of thing for the offense. And Buffalo's defense has been playing pretty well. I feel like they'll dominate the stats in this game. Whether they cover this big of a number is going to depend on whether they commit those dumb turnovers, and you just never know with them every week. So I played it at 11.5 early in the week because my number was 14. Now that it's getting up into that 13.5 range, not really willing to play it here. So going to be a stay away from me.
All right. I like Buffalo. Buffalo's going to trounce them. Buffalo Rams Super Bowl. Bills Rams Super Bowl. Stafford versus Josh Allen. All they do is stand at midfield and throw and see who can throw the most footballs like onto Mars. Be an awesome game. Stafford would beat him too. Warming up your arm, RJ? The Bills warm up? Okay, never mind. Moving on. See, everybody's got a little holiday hangover. Falcons at the Bears. Bears -3 over under 37.5. The Bears in the Cardinals game really flew under the radar, just like on the whole week. The Bears smoked the Cardinals and Kyler Murray, and now they get Taylor, Heineke. Man, it is pretty difficult to see a ton of points here, although I thought Heineke, it's weird how some of these coaches behave. Arthur Smith, Taylor Heineke, clearly an upgrade over Desmond Ridder, and Jacoby Brissett, clearly an upgrade over Sam Howell, not just because of where they went to school. It's surprising that it takes these guys so long to figure it out. RJ, you got anything on this game in terms of a best bet? I hope this game's on Fox because it's unwatchable.
Yeah, you say that about the Bears. Actually, I liked the Bears last week. I think they're an underrated team. I want to play them this week, but I think this line, it seemed like it was trending down toward the Falcons, and it might get to 2.5. So I've been waiting to hoping to get 2.5. And if we do, I'm going to jump on the Bears at 2.5. My play on this game is Atlanta to go under their team total of 17.5 points. Their offense bounced back in a huge way by leaning on the running backs, who had 10 of their 23 receptions in addition to the 28 carries. And even though the Bears defense was effective at limiting Arizona's running backs in the run game, they struggled against them in the pass game. So they'll have to correct some of that because it seemed like, some in routes were open for like 10 yards every single time they wanted it to those running backs. But the Bears are third in rush yards per allowed. So I think you're going to put the game in Heineke's hands. He's dealing with an injury, limited to start the week in practice. A lot of his offensive linemen also dealing with some injuries. So I don't know that they're going to score a ton of points here. The Atlanta defense did a great job shutting down Jonathan Taylor, and the Bears offense really needs the run game working to have a shot at success. So that's why I'm not confident enough to put the Bears in as a play at -3, because I could see this being a 3-point low scoring game. But that Atlanta offense has just been awful on the road. They lost road Heineke starts earlier in the year against Tennessee and Arizona, and that was actually the 2 games where they played well. Actually had their offense score some points. All the other times they've been terrible. So even though the power ratings say the line should be a little higher with Chicago's good home field advantage, I feel like it's going to be a field goal game either way. Want to lay 2.5. Easier playing the under for me here and just expecting this Atlanta offense to not have any consistency week to week and to struggle against an improved Bears defense.
It's hilarious on tankathon.com, which tracks every sport who's like hurtling towards the first overall pick. If you go to like a team schedule on Tankathon, I don't know why this makes me laugh so much, but like the Bears play the Panthers, right? And the Bears beat the Panthers. The W next to it is in red, as if it's a loss, because it's because you're going away from the number 1 overall pick, and all the L's are in green. I find that just incredibly amusing. So I don't know. That's just my thought on but the Bears ice cold according to Tankathon, 4-2 in their last 6 games. Granted, not exactly playing a murderer's row, but they did fight with Detroit. I agree with you. I think they're an underrated team, and they're going to play themselves. They're going to play themselves out of a top 10 pick. Fortunately for them, Carolina is trash. Although maybe the Panthers can steal something in terms of sliding out of that 1 spot. We will see. Titans at the Texans. Texans -5.5. A total of 40. 3.5. The Texans, the last time the Titans played, coming into that game, Derrick Henry had rushed for 115 yards per game against Houston in his career. That is outrageous. I think it's like 10 games, 12 touchdowns, just destroying them, averaging like 70 yards a carry. And DeMeco Ryans, and this is why I think if you're a Texans fan, you have to be thrilled not just about the surprisingly impressive season you've gotten from CJ Stroud, but also like DeMeco Ryans comes up with a plan to completely stifle Derrick Henry, who is a Texans killer. CJ Stroud should be back for this game, hence the high spread. Any interest in laying anything here, RJ, with this AFC South matchup?
We took Houston early in the week at 3.5, thinking that Stroud would trend toward being back. At 5.5, it's starting to get into the range where, I would make it 5 with Stroud. So I was starting to look at the Titans. If he gets to 6, maybe worth a play back on the Titans. Levis is likely going to be back for this game too, not just Stroud. Tennessee fought valiantly against Seattle. They showed that they're not giving up on the season despite being out of it. Run offense found new life, but Houston's rush defense has been top tier this year, but they're dealing with a lot of injuries, especially up front. I think they have 2 defensive tackles, Sheldon Rankins, Malik Collins, 2 defensive ends, Jonathan Grenard and Will Anderson, all missing practice, all hurt, all in doubt for this game. So if you put the second unit in, maybe it's going to be a little bit easier for Henry to run the ball in this matchup here. Houston was completely blown out by Cleveland, 2 garbage time touchdowns disguised it a bit in the final score, but going to have an easier matchup here against this Tennessee defense that can't stop the pass. So now that the line's up, like I said, I'm not playing Houston at this number. If you're going to play it, I think you got to play the Titans, but probably just going to be a stay away unless the line gets a little bit more out of hand in the Titans' favor.
Okay. Yeah, not a whole lot to love about this particular game. Raiders at the Colts. Woof. This actually line is kind of surprising given how well the Raiders have played. I guess the Colts do have, if they get Michael Pittman back, Jonathan Taylor back, they've clearly got a little more ammunition. Expected that Josh Jacobs is going to miss this game. Aiden O'Connell, they beat the Chiefs without Aiden O'Connell completing a pass for the final 3 quarters of that game. And so like, I don't know, man. It's a tough spot because I feel like the Raiders shouldn't be getting the 3.5, but there's something that is stinky about the line. Like the Colts could absolutely blow them out. Alex, any thoughts on this matchup here and how Michael Pittman's possible return would affect props and whatnot?
I've just been impressed with the Colts' resiliency, regardless of who's at quarterback, obviously, or even playing wide receiver or running back. They've just been pretty effective almost all year long. Certainly defying a lot of expectations and just playing very good football. As far as the Raiders are concerned, that stat regarding O'Connell not having completed a pass in the final 3 quarters is just unbelievable. I know the running game was really working. Zamir White had the big game against the really poor Kansas City run defense. It's just been dismal all season long. I do think the Raiders can have success on the ground against this Colts front 7 who have been average to below average for most of the year. I do think obviously getting Michael Pittman back for the Colts would be a big boost. He's quietly having an excellent season, specifically from a volume standpoint as well. He's been the number 1 target in that offense. But no props yet from this game. So kind of just sitting back and just seeing how things unfold from a practice standpoint and then going from there.
Yeah, it's interesting. The Colts are 8-7, but they look like the worst team in the league on those 7 losses. They're just so super ugly whenever they lose, and then when they win, they can hang with some good teams. They can beat some good teams. They beat Baltimore in Baltimore, earlier this year, and you just never know what to expect with them. They scored, I think it was 39 in a win over the Browns, or maybe it was 38 and they lost. But just this team, you just never know what you're getting. So if I knew which Colts team was showing up, I could tell you who to bet. But I do know that they haven't been more than 3-point favorites all year. This is like new territory for them to be laying 3.5. And as you mentioned, it's against a Raiders team that's playing hard and playing well for their coach. That everybody clearly wants him to be the full-time coach next year. So I think the defense can show up for them in this game. Just very worried about that offense for Vegas that is not doing anything. And Aiden O'Connell it can't be the quarterback moving forward in 2024. He just isn't with the weapons they have in place. He's not getting it done there. So even though the market wanted to push it towards Indy when it was on 3, I'm kind of with you that Raiders can be a little defensive, keep it a close game. I just worry about their offense doing enough to hang here. So if I'm going to play anything, it's probably going to be the under either on the Raiders or the game in general. but probably just going to be a stay away at 3.5.
All right. Let's take a break, but when we come back, more games and the Pick Six Parlay. We'll tell you about it next.
There's more than just pride on the line. It's a top-of-the-table Old Firm derby. Celtic, Rangers, Saturday on CBS Sports Network.
All right, welcome back. Time for the Pick Six Parlay. We select a game for a four-leg money line parlay. The rules, by now, everyone should be familiar with it. The person with the best record the previous week gets to pick first, second place second, so on and so on. By the end, we have to have at least one plus money pick. So it could be three favorites and a dog, but we got to have a dog in the parlay. This Pick Six Parlay segment is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Make every moment more. Last week, we almost had it. Unbelievable. Patriots plus 235 on Christmas. Was it Christmas Eve? It was Christmas Eve, right?
Christmas Eve, yeah.
Christmas Eve. Santa drops a 2.5 plus 235 miracle with the Pats beating the Broncos on the road on Christmas Eve.
Good call, RJ.
Thanks.
I was Katie.
No, it was me.
Oh, it was RJ.
No,
That's right. Yeah.
I said we can go the safer underdog, or we could go with the spicy one, and you wanted to go spicy, so I went Patriots.
That's right.
The safer one came through too. It was Steelers. So
man, that's crazy. Yeah, the Patriots. And by the way, I mean, just really quickly on the Patriots. Well, actually, you know what? We talk about this really quickly. Well, actually, we'll talk about the Patriots in a second. Let's just get through the parlay. I was going to point out that the Broncos cost a lot of people a lot of money in the Circus Survivor. Mm-hmm. And that's a tough L, because like your Christmas Eve, you've got. So I think there were 10 people left. 6 of them took the Broncos. One guy took the Rams. 2 had the Bears, and 1 had the Packers. So like, Bears were the easiest sweat. Rams were the easiest sweat because you ran on Thursday. You didn't have to worry about it going into Christmas. And then of course the Packers. All like there's just a whole lot of, Anyway. We lost to the freaking Chiefs. The Chiefs lose to the Raiders at home as massive minus 500 favorites, and that cost us the parlay. That is so crappy. Like, it's brutal, man. But we will be back at it. Chiefs' pitiful Christmas performance did us in. Alex, you get the nod first up.
What's funny, Brinson, is I think the majority of times that we've lost, it's been on a heavy favorite and not the dog. So hopefully we can reverse that trend this week. But yeah, I'm gonna go full chalk, full homer here. Take my Philadelphia Eagles against the Arizona Cardinals. I think the Eagles are gonna roll on what I believe is the worst defense in the league. I think we see the Eagles really trying to make a statement game. They've had trouble closing out opponents. Their aggressiveness has kind of come into question. I think we see the Eagles really make a concerted effort to finish the game strong, and we just see a very aggressive offensive game plan against the Cardinals defense they should have their way with.
I gotta be honest. I don't know if I love I don't blame you. Like, they're 10.5 point favorites, like perfectly fine with it. I think the Cardinals can keep things a little frisky here. Arizona got smoked. I just think the Chiefs, the Bears and the 49ers defenses, the Eagles defense just isn't playing well right now, but yes, they should be able to score enough. And I took the Cardinals as well. We'll get to them. Anyway, RJ, you are up with the second pick.
Alex is not worried about the Jonathan Gannon revenge spot. About the team. We'll get into that game, but about the team Jonathan playing Gannon hard for the former coordinator turn coach for them. So that'll be interesting. I always preach here. You should be willing to take a team with the spread if you're going to play them on this money line and put them in a parlay here. You have to believe that they're going to cover that spread for this to equate to value. And one team we know I like to cover the spread is the Cowboys. So I'm going to put the Cowboys in at minus 210 as my pick. I think that's the best favorite here to take. I would prefer them even to these higher, favored games like the Bills and the Eagles, because I think that Cowboys line should be a little bit higher.
Okay. So we got, let's put in the Eagles and the Cowboys. Oh, me, oh my. So I'm left to pick a dog for Katie, as well as let's do a group. Let's find a dog as a group. I think that's the best way to do it.
Who's your favorite?
I think the Bills are the pick to be the favorite. I mean, minus 850 is a ton, but 13.5 point favorites. I have a hard time seeing them fall. Well, really, I mean, San Francisco, I think, is in a good bounce back spot, but a little spooky. I think the Bills at home, divisional matchup. I mean, they're in a very good spot to make the playoffs, but they still need to like win this game. Like you can't F around and find out when it comes to this game. So we'll go Bills minus 850. That gives us minus 104 already on the parlay. So we're almost at plus money anyway, thanks to the Cowboys just being minus 210. I like the three favorite picks here. Got to find an underdog.
May I suggest the same strategy as last week and fading the Broncos?
Oh, I'm down for that. I'm actually shocked by this line.
Yeah, it was much higher earlier in the week, and then we found out Jared Stidham was going to start. That dropped the line 2 points. I don't think it dropped the line enough. I think we'll get into the game, but I think there's more of a drop off from Russell Wilson to Stidham. I don't think Wilson was playing at the level of needing to be benched, and so I don't think the market has reacted enough, and we're still getting good value on this money line.
Yeah, and I think too, when you look at this game, it's a situation where if you're a Broncos player and you know that you're still alive for the playoffs and you're benching your quote unquote franchise quarterback, you have to kind of think that like they're folding up shop and playing for 2024 or even 2025 to like rebuild this team, just the way that things are structured. Like you're hearing the buzz about the cap, the salary cap stuff and how much it's going to affect next year. If you can't trade him, which you won't be likely to do that. Meanwhile, the Chargers, GIF Smith? What's his last name?
Smith.
GIF Smith. They're playing hard for these guys. So I don't know. I like it. Let's go Chargers. And then we have Eagles minus 520, Cowboys minus 210, Bills minus 850, and the Chargers plus 156. That gives us a 4-leg parlay, 4-1 plus 403 for the Pick Six podcast parlay, which we are due to hit at some point soon. Let's get that cash this week. This Pick Six podcast, this Pick Six parlay segment has been brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Make every moment more. The Los Angeles Rams headed to the New York Giants to play Tyrod Taylor. I was about to say it's a Tyrod Taylor revenge game, but no, he played for the other LA team. He played for a bunch of football teams. Rams are minus 5.5 in this spot with a total of 44.5. Kind of a sneaky high total there for a game between, I think, two teams that people aren't that interested in. I would point out that Matthew Stafford, as Don Wink Martindale said this today, playing at a Hall of Fame level, and an MVP level. He and Lamar, the two guys that Wink said are playing at MVP level. Matthew Stafford, third on my MVP ballot. If I had one, the ones we do for CBSSports.com. He's playing awesome football. He's locked in. He's healthy. And as long as he's healthy, this Rams team, can hang with anybody in the NFL. The 49ers and the Ravens obviously would be favored over them. Several teams would, but the Rams can hang with anybody. And Stafford, I'll tell you, Stafford, Josh Allen, Super Bowl matchup. Not that crazy. Give me the Rams as a best bet. Credit to the Giants coaching staff for keeping this team going and the effort is there every week. They're trying. They battle back against Philly in a really difficult spot on Christmas Day. Tyrod Taylor is a huge upgrade over Tommy DeVito, but they just don't have a ton of talent on the offensive side of the ball right now in terms of the skill position guys. I think the Rams can limit them. Les needs a tremendous job building the talent around the superstars. Give me the Rams as a best bet, minus 5.5 on the road.
Surprised you didn't put them in the parlay as your money line pick with how much lower they are, considering how Stafford's going to win the MVP and he's a Hall of Famer.
He is a Hall of Famer. He's not going to win MVP. He's going to get an MVP vote. If we did that instead, by the way, it would be plus 546. I think the Bills are much more like road game across the country on that crappy field versus Bills at home. I feel much more comfortable about the Bills.
So I agreed with the initial move when it went down to 4.5. I think that's fair because Tyrod Taylor is a massive upgrade on DeVito for the offense, and he can keep this game close. The Rams, I don't think, should be higher favorites than 7 against anyone, and the Giants, I think, are a little bit more respectable team with Taylor in there. At 5.5, it's kind of in that mid zone here of I don't know which team I really want to play. I feel like Giants are probably the smart play, but that Rams team is just tough to get in front of right now. Number 6 in yards per play, top 10 in yards per rush and yards per pass, 399 plus yards in 5 straight after beating down New Orleans. And it was a blowout, even though the score didn't reflect it. It was 30-7 midway through the fourth quarter. So I counted as a blowout. That defense is capable of shutting down limited offenses, held 3 of their last 6 opponents under 300 yards. I'm not sure if the Giants have a limited offense with Taylor. I guess we're going to find out. So if he can engineer some scoring drives, maybe hit some big plays like that Slayton play, stay close, the Giants can cover here. My problem is the Giants defense is now 27th in yards per play. So I think the Rams, as long as they don't sleepwalk in this game, look ahead to facing San Francisco next week with potentially the playoff spot on the line. If they show up for this game, they should cover. They win and cover, but it's just a tough spot for them. So I'm going to stay away.
Anything here for you, Prop?
I just continue to be impressed with Kyren Williams. Last week, we talked about Brinson, how his combo line was almost identical to Christian McCaffrey's. Well, this week it is even higher than Christian McCaffrey, and Christian McCaffrey is playing against the Washington Commanders. So that should tell you all you need to know about how well Kyren Williams is running the football right now. His rushing line is 94 yards and heading north. Obviously has 3-down skill set. The Rams utilizing him. And just he has as big as a running back carry share as any running back in the league. So the usage is absolutely through the roof, and he's just been incredibly productive. And he's certainly going to be on a lot of championship fantasy teams as well.
Yeah, no doubt about it. He if he didn't win a championship last week, he's going to do. You want to be starting him this week. You mentioned Christian McCaffrey. He is going on the road along with the San Francisco 49ers, licking their wounds to play the Washington Commanders after they just got beat down. They got beat down on Monday night and on Christmas night. And now they're going to Washington as a huge favorite, minus 12.5 total here, 49.5. I got a best bet on this one. I'm going to take Washington. I think if you I had the Jets last week, and I'm furious the Jets didn't cover. The Jets can't cover 3. They were up there blowing out Washington. It was an absolute beatdown. Ron Rivera decides to put in Jacoby Brissett in the fourth quarter, and Jacoby Brissett just engineers touchdown drive after touchdown drive. It's because he's competent, and he's a veteran who's been in the league for a long time. And Sam Howell's a younger guy who's essentially starting as what amounts to being a 5th-round rookie after they made him sit behind Carson Wentz. He's holding the ball a ton. He takes tons of sacks. Jacoby's a little more effectively mobile and just a smarter player. And I think that you're going to see Washington able to move the ball against the Niners are going to be. I'm a little concerned here because this is Kyle Shanahan hates Washington, but Dan Snyder's not owning. He doesn't in the owner anymore. So maybe that eases up Kyle's disgust with his team a little bit. We'll see. I'm going to take Washington with the fighting Jacoby Brissett to cover this big number. It's not going to be fun. It's not going to be easy. But as long as they can storm through the back door or just be close going late, I think San Francisco will try and just stay healthy and close this game out.
Yeah, I like the Commanders when they were 13.5, expecting Brissett was going to take over as starter, and he is. So the line's trended down toward them. I think they're going to score points. My best bet here is Washington going over 17.5 points on their team total. The reason I like playing this is I don't know what we're going to get from the 49ers offense. I mean, they should get 400 yards and 30-plus points in this game. That's bare minimum against this awful defense. But that's if everyone is healthy, and they came out of that game really beat up. Brock Purdy dealing with an injury, the MVP of the team, Trent Williams, dealing with an injury. So we'll see about the availability of those guys. And if everybody's healthy and they're in, I think they'll score 40 in this game. And then I'm not as confident in Washington covering, but Brissett could do it. I mean, he could get them to 30 points. He engineered 5 straight touchdown drives over the last 2 games when he came in cold in those games. So who knows what he's going to do in this matchup here. And it's not like the 49ers defense has been playing that well either. So The potential for the 49ers to sleepwalk is big road favorites here. So I don't think anybody should be laying the points. If you're going to play the spread, play the Commanders. But now at 12.5, I think the better play is to just take Washington and go over 17.5 because I'm pretty confident they'll get to 20 points with Brissett at quarterback.
Do we give Katie the Niners team total over? Is an honorary pick? It's got to be like 30 something, right?
It's got to be in the 30s. No, if she didn't make the pick, let's not give it to her. But we will note that she would definitely take it in this matchup, no matter what the number is. They can make it 39.5, and I'm sure she'd take it.
That's right. Trying to see what the total. Let's see.
I got 31.5, and it's juiced to the under.
31.5 is a lot of points. I mean, that's a lot of points for a team total, especially on the road when you're banged up. And I mean, like, look. Will this game? Oh, also, will this game? I'm trying to think if this game's got to be at 1 o'clock, right? Or is this game at 4 o'clock?
Yes, 1 o'clock.
Okay, so 1 o'clock. Okay. Oh, but the Lions and Cowboys play on Saturday, so if the Cowboys win, San Francisco feels really good about it. Like, it's not, you know what I mean? Like, I'm just wondering, like, will San Francisco potentially be sort of like not sleep? I mean, like. If the Lions win, doesn't that...
If the Lions lose, they still have to worry about the Eagles, and the Eagles have very easy matchups the last 2 weeks. So 49ers cannot afford to lose either game and think that they're going to get the 1 seed.
Right. Okay. That is a good call. But if the... Yeah, it's actually not even that big a difference between Cowboys and Lions. Never mind. All right, carry on. I tried. Panthers at the Jaguars. Mid-90s expansion team Super Bowl here. Carolina headed down to Jacksonville to take on a reeling Jacksonville Jaguars team. Jacksonville, losers of 4 straight, at home against the Bengals in that Monday night game where Trevor Lawrence got hurt, at the Browns, home against the Ravens, then at the Buccaneers. They have lost the last 2 by double digits. Granted, Tampa playing well. That game's on the road, and Baltimore, a really tough matchup. Jaguars are teetering here in terms of their viability as a playoff team. Once thought it was a possible Super Bowl sleeper by some idiots. The Jaguars now 74% to get in the playoffs, 60% to win the division. But if you lose this game at home to the Panthers, you drop down below 50% to make the playoffs. Win, you're up to 84%. RJ. Panthers have been frisky. Defense is playing well. Interim coach has got them second year in a row. Everybody's going to be talking about the Panthers this offseason because the interim coach got them going to the end of the season. Anything you like here?
Yeah, the offense looked legit in that game against Green Bay out of nowhere. And I know Green Bay has a bad defense and a lot of guys were hurt, but hasn't really mattered for the Panthers. They haven't moved the ball against anyone this year. And Bryce Young out of nowhere has 300 pass yards. So this Jaguars defense certainly capable of getting routed. But that Tampa Bay game, Tampa Bay beat them with sustained pass efficiency. And we know Baker Mayfield can do that. I'm not sure if Bryce Young can do that for a second game in a row here. The Jacksonville offense is a mess, has been a mess with Trevor Lawrence. Healthy-ish. He's been dealing with a lot of injuries. I think they might be better if Beathard starts this game against a beat-up Panthers defense that also dealing with a ton of injuries. Just let him go out there, manage the game, and win a game by 7 or 10 rather than having Lawrence get beat up and potentially playing at a lower level that he has been playing at these last few games. Carolina has covered 3 of 4 under Tabor, and Jacksonville, like you said, uncompetitive in 2 straight. So weirdly enough, you get these situations where, you know, if the backup is in, or the starter's coming in, the line moves up like we saw with Stroud in that Houston game. I'm kind of like on the opposite side here. Like I when the line moves up for Lawrence, if he's in, I want to play Carolina over 7. If the line moves down with Beathard in, I kind of want to play Jacksonville. It's this weird reverse spot that you wouldn't expect, depending on who the quarterback is, that you would be on the opposite side of where the line's going. But that's how I'm looking to this game. I just need more clarity on quarterback before I know where to go.
I tend to agree. All right. Next up, unless you got anything you're dying to talk about there, prop. Arizona Cardinals at the Philadelphia Eagles. Eagles minus 10.5. Over under 48, shaded a little bit towards the over. I can't help but like the Cardinals here. I got them as a best bet. Arizona catching double digits. I was like, watching the Cardinals, and maybe the play is Arizona first half, but watching the Cardinals early against the Bears and then early against the Props just disappeared. He'll be back in a second. Early against the Bears, then early against the 49ers the week before. RJ, I kind of felt like the Cardinals were hanging around and moving the ball. And maybe it's the scripted plays early on that they're succeeding at, but it did feel like they were in the games early on. Then you go and look and you're like, wow, they got blown out in both of those games. So I'm not entirely sure if I should be leaning towards the first half here with Arizona, or my thought process is that the Eagles defense playing poorly, short week, they're just struggling as a team to really find their entire identity. They barely, the Giants, they had the Giants down for most of the game, but the Giants got right back in that one. And I kind of like the Cardinals here.
Thanks in part to a pick six. I don't think the Cardinals are going to get. Their defense is not stopping anybody. 6.3 yards per play against Chicago, mostly to the run game. Bottom 5 in yards per rush and yards per pass. Feels like a really good get right spot for the Eagles offense here. And that, like you said, the Cardinals offense had success against an improving Chicago defense a little bit. They could get to 20 points. I'm worried about Kyler Murray dealing with an illness right now. We'll see how that progresses throughout the week. But if that costs him some practice time here, or if he's not 100% for the game and he plays through it, that could curb their scoring because he's so essential to what they do offensively. And I would worry about their scoring if he's not 100% there. So Philly's not winning many games by margin, only 2 wins by 10 plus all year. So I understand wanting to take the dog, and Arizona certainly has backdoor potential if Kyler's 100%. So I'm going to be looking to the over, maybe looking to the dog, but want to see how Kyler feels later in the week.
Yep. Same thing. All right, let's take a break. But first, Sunday, it's an NFL on CBS New Year's Eve doubleheader featuring 2 matchups that will shape the playoff race, beginning with the Dolphins taking on the Ravens. Later, the Bengals try to keep their postseason hopes alive when they face the Chiefs. Get set for kickoff beginning at noon Eastern with the NFL Today. Happy holidays. The NFL is on CBS and streaming on Paramount Plus. Up next, Saints and Buccaneers, massive game in the NFC South. We'll tell you about it next.
We need your sports news anywhere.
We've got breaking news to bring you.
Then get your sports anytime you want them. Big trade news overnight to discuss.
Because we know you need sports all the time.
A lot of movement in the rankings this week.
A legend adds to their legacy.
We're bringing you that breaking news right here on HQ.
CBS Sports HQ, anywhere, anytime, all the time.
Okay, Saints and Buccaneers, 2-man show here. Myself and RJ White breaking down these final games. Propstarz had some internet issues. We got his picks, and if he pops back in, we'll be good to go. But Saints at Buccaneers, RJ. Baker Mayfield, I'm not going to suggest that Baker Mayfield should be in the MVP race, but Baker Mayfield's playing some really good football. Best football, what's this, the 2020 Browns season? Maybe the second half of his rookie year. Maybe the best football of his career. Dealing to Mike Evans, Chris Godwin's getting involved. Bucs offense. This is not a terrible Bucs team. I think if you're the Cowboys, or likely the Cowboys, maybe the Eagles, whoever is that 5 seed, I think you'd much rather see New Orleans or Atlanta than Tampa Bay in this spot. Thought about Tampa Bay as a best bet. You actually have it as a best bet.
I took Tampa as the best bet. The market liked the Saints. This was 3. Once it dipped down to 2.5, I wanted to jump on the Bucs here. They're on a 4-game win streak, scored 29 plus in 3 straight. Their offense is getting close to top 10 in yards per pass. And New Orleans defense, typically good against the pass, but played a pretty easy schedule. And we saw when they played the Rams, they got thrown all over last week. They also have struggled in on the road this year. When they're not when they're not facing teams like the Panthers and Giants, which is who their defense stepped up against later this early, a few games ago. The Tampa Bay defense then benefited from 4 Jacksonville turnovers last week. I'm not convinced that they're going to have a great game here, but they are getting healthier. Their defense did shut down New Orleans in the first meeting. Derek Carr was dealing with an injury and playing through that, and he's been playing a lot better now. My worry with him is he's played 20 road games late in the season, which I define as 13th game or later when I did a look up here, and he scored 20 plus points just 4 times. You just don't expect him to go on the road. And I know Tampa isn't a terrible weather spot here, but he did play in the AFC West a lot of times. So a lot of those road games, he's not playing in terrible weather anyway. So this will be interesting here to see if he shows up in this game. I think Tampa Bay is good enough to win this game by 3. I think they're definitely the better team. So I would make it this is around the right line, but I think Tampa Bay, the way they're playing, they should win this game by at least 3. So I have a best bet Tampa minus 2.5.
I think it's also possible we see Mike Evans come out here and just with no Marshawn Lattimore, just go bananas on the Saints defense because Lattimore not expected to return for this game. And you look at the injury report, Saints injury report, a lot bigger than the Bucs. Bucs are actually getting healthy. Man, I'm telling you, Bucs are going to be slight underdogs, like 3.5 points or something like that in a playoff game at home in January and then the wild card weekend. And I am thrilled to take the Buccaneers in that spot.
We also have one play from Alex in this game. We know he loves Chris Olave, and he's going to go over on the 66.5 receiving yards for Chris Olave in this matchup. Tampa Bay, we know, is a much better defending the run than the pass. So even with guys getting healthier, you would expect Olave with Carr playing well to have a good game here. So I agree with this spot. I think Olave probably gets to the 80-yard range or so. So I think it's a solid play. Yeah,
I would agree with that as well. Especially you saw it, Olave banged up, plays on Thursday anyway. Has a really nice game. I think 130 receiving yards or something like that. And then it now has 10 days to get healthier. Derek Carr has some time to get healthier. Bucs are a pass funnel. As a dog on the road, you expect him to be throwing, and Olave certainly gets the lion's share of those targets. So it makes a ton of sense. Steelers at the Seahawks. Seahawks minus 3.5, over under 41.5. Really tough game, I think, to handicap here, RJ. Pittsburgh. I mean, we saw him on Saturday. Mason Rudolph looked incredible. I think most people are going to look at this game and see the hook and think that it's time to take the Steelers, who are at 8-7, salvage the season, have to win one more game to guarantee Mike Tomlin a winning season. Probably going to come at Baltimore when the Ravens bench everybody in week 18. But nevertheless, this is a winnable game, even with the last 2 games of the season on the road, 4:00. Seattle won't be sleepwalking. Seattle needs this one bad. I tend to lean towards the Seahawks, but I don't really love either side here.
I like the Seahawks. I'm not putting it in as a play because I expect the market to buy it down to 3. And at that point, I want to jump in on the Seahawks playing just the 3 there. Their defense has been pretty good at limiting big plays, but they're not playing San Francisco. They had no pass plays allowed over 20 yards the last 2 weeks. And one of those games was against a very good Eagles offense. So I think they're playing well. They're going to get healthier. It seems like Jamal Adams, Devon Witherspoon, both trending toward playing after missing the last few weeks. That Pittsburgh game, react to them having that great offensive day. They destroyed a really bad defense there in Cincinnati, but it was 2 long touchdowns on that in that game, and they had 4.4 yards per play on the other 56 plays. So you make them have sustained offense. I'm not sure they can do it with Mason Rudolph at quarterback on the road here in a tough environment. I think Seattle's going to win this game by probably at least 6. So I think if you want to play 3.5, and that's the only thing that's going to be available, go ahead and lay the 3.5. But I'm still going to be strategic and wait until it drops to 3 and then jump on the Seahawks.
Alex, we did get your Chris Olave bet in on the Saints. I think RJ and I both agree with it. Low enough number, 66.5. Where guys should see a ton of targets with the Bucs. Any thoughts on Steelers and Seahawks here?
I like the spot for Seattle. I know that I've been a Seattle apologist. RJ and I have been backing them. Brinson, you like them as well all season. But yeah, this looks like a really good spot at home against Pittsburgh. I still have confidence that Seattle has a good chance to squeak into the playoffs. So certainly playing for something here as well. And I just think Pittsburgh being undermanned, having to travel across the country against the Seattle passing attack, which should have some success against a kind of slow Pittsburgh pass defense. It's been vulnerable on the back end. I've been impressed with the ascension of Jackson Smith and Jigba, DK Metcalf having a really nice season as well. So I expect Seattle to be able to move the ball. I also like them actually to cover the 3.5 here and win comfortably. So if I could, Harry, I'd love to add Seattle minus 3.5 as a best bet.
Seattle, Harry can add it post facto if he doesn't feel like doing any Photoshop work on the graphic that he already has loaded into StreamYard. The Bengals at the Chiefs. Chiefs minus 7. That's Harry. Don't worry about it. Chiefs minus 7, over under 44.5. Propstarz, I'll go right back to you. You like Travis Kelce in a bounce back spot here after sort of struggling, an embarrassing loss on Christmas Day, and really struggling in the second half of the season.
Brinson, if there's ever a get-right spot for Travis Kelce, it is right here against the Cincinnati Bengals. Watching the Bengals, if we look at a lot of the advanced underlying metrics, this is the worst defense in the league when it comes to covering tight ends. As you mentioned, it's been a struggle for Travis Kelce. He's still probably the best pass-catching tight end, but that gap is narrowing. Only 960 yards through this spot of the season, as Rashee Rice has out-targeted him quite a bit over the last 3 weeks as well. Some people signaling a changing of the guard there in Kansas City. I still think the offense will run through Travis Kelce, but he's failed to have a 100-yard game in the second half of the season. But I like him to get peppered with targets, to be the engine of Kansas City's passing attack. They can't afford to mess around, especially if there's no Isaiah Pacheco. I think this Chiefs team's going to be angry. I think we're going to see the passing game get going here, be aggressive, and this is certainly a great matchup for Travis Kelce and Patrick Mahomes, but I like him to get double-digit targets here. This is my favorite prop on the board by a significant margin.
And I'm going to play the Bengals to go under their team total of 17.5 as a best bet. Kansas City has a top 10 defense in yards per play. Since he really needs Jamar Chase back to have any shot at beating a quality pass defense, and I don't think he's going to play in this game. Kansas City has allowed 13 offensive touchdowns in their 8 home games, just 16.4 points per game in those games, despite facing Buffalo, Miami, Detroit, Philly, Chargers when they had Herbert, a lot of very good offenses. So against Jake Browning, I think they'll be able to do their jobs here. Not as confident in the Chiefs offense to lay the 7 here, but I do think the defense is going to show up. They're all of a sudden the best unit on the team, on a team that has 2-time MVP Patrick Mahomes. The Chiefs defense is playing better than the offense. So I think they'll do their jobs and keep the Bengals under 17.5 as the best bet.
Chargers at the Broncos. Broncos minus 3.5. Total 37.5. We mentioned this in the parlay segment. Just want to point out again, 6 people in the Circa Million played for $9.5 million, $9.4 million. 6 people took the Broncos and Russ against Bill Belichick and Bailey Zappi and were knocked out. I mean, I don't even, I'm eating so much like Tylenol PM that I'm not waking up on Christmas Day. Like, don't even bother.
If I'm not mistaken, Brinson, as well, I believe Mike Perry, who famously did not want to chop.
Sean Perry.
Sean Perry, yeah. Okay, yes. Sean Perry, yeah.
Also on the Broncos. So that was kind of
the karmic relief.
Yes.
But
yeah. I'm with you. Yeah. Sean Perry, who said, I'm not chopping, and the best gambler in the world, knocked out with the Broncos. So at least that part was a nice little Christmas surprise for everybody. RJ, you've got the Chargers plus 3.5 here.
Yeah, even though it's come down to 3.5, like I mentioned in our pick 6 parlay segment, I don't think it's come down enough because I do think there's a significant gap between Russell Wilson and Jarrett Stidham. Russell Wilson obviously is not getting benched for performance reasons. They don't want to guarantee his contract moving forward. They don't think that Stidham gives them the better chance to win. I don't think his numbers were fine. 66% completions, 26-8 touchdown to interception ratio. The yardage isn't, completely there, but that's that Sean Payton offense and the weapons they have too. So I think the market is underrating the drop to this backup here. I think it's worth backing the Chargers with them still catching more than 3 in this matchup. I would make it on the other side of 3. I don't expect a Jarrett Stidham blow up game. He, like we had last year, he knew that system. He had played with Josh McDaniels in New England. Completely different system here. I don't expect him to just come out and fire all over this team. So I think this is a good spot for the Chargers to get a win here, which is why we threw it in the parlay. But at plus 3.5, I'm still making it a best bet. We got 5.5 earlier in the week on Sportsline, but I'll still take it at 3.5.
Yeah, the drop off is pretty significant there, and so I like that as well. Finally, the Green Bay Packers at the Vikings. Vikings -2 over under of 46.5. This is actually back to Packers -1.5 on the news that Jaron Hall, the rookie, is going to start for the Vikings. I guess that was already baked in because the line didn't really move, or has it moved elsewhere and just not at FanDuel? I see it down a little bit elsewhere, but yeah, still 1.5 on FanDuel. I actually put this in. I was putting this in. Hadn't moved a ton.
It was 2 at most spots. It's now kind of mostly 1 in the market, although I do see a pick. I see one place where the Packers are favored. So it seems like there is some space for this to move right now with Hall. I think a lot of people are more optimistic with the offense with Nick Mullins. I don't know that there's that much of a difference because Nick Mullins is going to get you some yards and get you some touchdowns. He's also going to turn the ball over a ton. Yep. Very ugly quarterback play there. A lot of injuries on both sides. Hawkinson's hurt.
Hawkinson's out for the year. Jordan Addison probably not going to play. Yeah.
Managing an ankle injury. Green Bay has been completely beat up on the offensive side of the ball. We don't know who's going to play for them. So we'll see who's available for this game. My initial lean was at the Packers at +2, and thinking that Hall could come in because they didn't make a commitment to Mullins coming out of that game. And I do like the Packers with Hall at quarterback, but do want to see them a lot healthier before I go all in on them.
Okay. I'm going to take the Packers at +1.5. I agree. I think that the injuries are a problem, but I would be surprised if Addison plays. We know Hawkinson won't play. I think Green Bay will have enough guys. The Green Bay defense is just pathetic. But if there's, stop. That's why I would just play Nick Mullins. He's going to move the ball against Green Bay defense pretty easily. But I think we can see a shootout. I'll take the Packers here. Anything for you, Propstarz?
I like Ty Chandler in this matchup. Both you guys mentioned how poor Green Bay's defense has been. They've been a massive run funnel, completely unable to stop opposing running backs. Ty Chandler looks like a potential league winner as well. He's running the ball very well for Minnesota, playing all 3 downs as well, contributing in the short area passing game. So I like him to potentially have a big game, and I'll be looking to see what his prop line is released at.
All right,
Jaron Hall, I think is a pretty mobile quarterback too. Propstarz, we'd be looking like anytime touchdown with him, considering that they seem to be going with the run game here against a very bad defense. Maybe he gets in the end zone. I don't know what it's going to end up being, but I assume it's going to be pretty long odds for
5-1
an unknown quarterback. So little sprinkle there on anytime touchdown might pay off for Jaron Hall.
Love it. Absolutely.
Yeah. Dig it. All right, let's get to the recap of the week. I've got the Dallas Cowboys -4.5. Buffalo Bills -13.5. The Rams -5.5. Washington +12.5. Arizona +10.5. And Green Bay +2 or +1.5. Quite the eclectic collection of 6 bets there for me. Miss Mox is out sick today. RJ, what you on?
Got Cowboys -4.5. The Falcons team total over or under 17.5. The Washington team total over 17.5. Tampa Bay -2.5. Cincinnati under 17.5, and the Chargers +3.5.
And I've got Stephon Diggs to go over 5.5 receptions. Chris Olave to have at least 67 receiving yards. Seattle -3.5. Shout out to producer Harry for getting that up in the recap. Very well done, Harry. He is an excellent producer. And last but not least, we've got Travis Kelce over 62.5 receiving yards. That is my favorite prop of the week so far, I might add as well.
All right. I love it. That'll do it for us for the Week 17 NFL Pick Show. Hard to believe that we only got 2 weeks left of this, but then the playoffs, exciting stuff, very close races on all the against the spread bets. For Propstarz, for RJ, I'm Brinson. For producer Harry, I'm Brinson. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. We will see you guys later.